star-studded panel that we have here to talk with you this morning. As he mentioned, my name is Christina Hahn, and I am the Director of America's Partner Solutions and Innovation at Google. What that means is my day-to-day responsibilities include working with our sales team and our product team to build solutions that help our partners monetize and distribute their content. And before we get started and dive in, and being that we have 45 minutes, I want to have each of our panelists introduce themselves and take a few minutes just to give a bit of their background, what they're working on now. And as an icebreaker, we will share our favorite Saturday Night Live skit. I'll share mine first. My favorite Saturday Night Live skit is The Delicious Dish, the NPR editions.
I'm Gabrielle Heyman. I run global ad sales for Zynga, which covers private programmatic and direct I/O. And I'm from LA, so of course my favorite skit is The Californians.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Solorzano. I am the VP of Programmatic Operations at Forbes. So my team handles end-to-end anything programmatic, whether it comes to any exchanges, header bidding, first look, PMPs, PGs, all of that. My favorite SNL I couldn't pick one because I love all of the Justin Timberlake SNL skills. But one of my favorite one from last year was a Mother's Day one where they talked about, there was a child going to the mother's room and asking Mom, how was I born? And she had said oh, it was the most beautiful day. And mind you, there's skits in the back of her screaming in the delivery room. So I couldn't stop laughing.
Hi, I'm Katie Millington from Vox. My title is Director of Platform and Audience Strategy. So my team handles programmatic sales strategy. We support our entire field sales organization just around technical specs for programmatic, as well as data revenue strategy. In terms of a favorite SNL skit, I think I'll go with a classic here, which is Celebrity Jeopardy. Can't go wrong with that one.
Thank you. Okay. Ooh. Little feedback there. And now to the topic at hand, the future of programmatic, key trends, and best practices. As this session's description suggests, yesterday's promises of programmatic have largely been realized, with the vast majority of digital spend really speeding through programmatic pipes today. But as an industry, we are still working incredibly hard to maximize the impact of programmatic on our businesses. So for advertisers, that means improving things like securing more brand-safe inventory at scale, growing unique reach, addressing key audiences everywhere, and lowering things like a cost per download. And then on the publisher side, this means increasing the value of your audiences, growing revenue for every impression across all of your properties. So today we're going to dive into 3 key areas that we think are extremely important. We think all of you in the room will think are important, and we think most of the industry at large probably has top of mind as well. First, we're going to look at the open auction, and I heard some talk of this earlier from Meredith, and how recent industry developments have resulted in renewed trust and movement back into the open auction. Then we're going to switch over to programmatic reservations and where things are there. And from there, we'll close out with mobile and talk specifically about MWeb and MApp, and having Gabrielle here, we'll get into gaming too, which I think is a hot topic. So we'll dive into the return of the open auction. Recent reports have suggested that the value of private marketplaces has started to diminish. Advertisers are citing sweeping industry initiatives like ads.txt, the arrest and prosecution of bad actors, always good to get the FBI involved, and invalid traffic refunds really being sources of renewed trust for advertisers to go back into the open auction. I can tell you from our side, when you look at Display and Video 360, 80% of impressions are coming from sites with an ads.txt file. So let's start with Rebecca. I want to dive in and thinking about these reports and trends and putting that into consideration. How has this impacted your business, and are you seeing a shift among advertisers and media agencies?
So I haven't seen as much of a shift as the reports would actually suggest. When it came to the open auction, we didn't really have conversations of go to PMP or go to one-to-one deals to secure that you're running with Forbes. I think after the ads.txt, though, we did get a lot more conversations of people coming to us and saying, hey, put us on your ads.txt and we'll give you, you'll get $1 million more in revenue. So you saw a lot more of the bad actors once we established our ads.txt, and then now we would get some maybe a few months, but there's still gonna, like, at least for us, we still have those people that are asking for the PMP deals. I think it's just more of a also education process of understanding that now that we do have ads.txt, open auction is more safe, is more secure. But the education's still not there yet. You still have these people that say, well, I still want a deal, even though you can get the scale, and depending on the quarters, you can get the scale within the open auction. But for PMPs, they just still want to have that sort of one-to-one deal.
Katie, do you have a perspective on this?
Yeah, so I would also agree. We're seeing the open market trend upward for sure. I mean, like if you just look back since 2017, it's kind of increased steadily year over year. And we're seeing, like, based on our forecasting just for 2019, that it will increase as well. I think there's still definitely a need for PMPs. I think we still get tons of requests from buyers around like campaign-specific ones. But one thing I also think is interesting that's kind of a newer trend is around curated marketplaces. Where there's multiple publishers within a deal, and they can be used for an advertiser to reach a really specific audience. So I'm kind of seeing a move away from kind of those always-on deals and more of those campaign-specific ones and perhaps curated marketplaces. We have been seeing this as well, like based on our conversations with DSPs, that they're also kind of trying to reinstill that confidence back into the open market. And ads.txt is, of course, like a great way to keep the inventory safe, kind of keep the bad actors out. But yeah, I think it's still something to watch. But we're still seeing the demand for PMPs, I think, overall.
Gabrielle, I'm guessing you have a little bit of a different opinion on the open auction based on your business. How do you guys view it, and how to, like, from a brand, business, or operational perspective?
Well, just to continue on the ads.txt train, we're mostly mobile in-app, and that spec was just released in November, and it's still in beta, so it really hasn't come to app partners on the open exchange. We are seeing growing demand for PMPs, definitely, and PG as well, and I think that, of course, I focus on that side of business maybe and less on the open exchange, but I do see some clients leaning towards PG, some clients leaning towards PMP, some clients leaning towards open exchange. So it's really very specific to what different clients want. I don't think there's a universal trend that I'm seeing occur.
So on that point, you want to have your inventory available based on how an advertiser wants to buy it. Have you guys been thinking differently about your revenue models at all in regards to this?
I mean, for Zynga, we have a lot of demand for our inventory. There's brand buyers. There's also app install campaigns. So we're seeing the app install business really drive CPMs up, both in putting pressure on the brand side to pay more for our inventory. So definitely what we're seeing is people who are desiring to buy out, big buyouts of our inventory, which means there's kind of less on the long tail available, so less on the open exchange available.
Yeah, I think for us, recently we went through kind of a sales reorg where the rest of our field sales organization is selling programmatic. So I think with that, we've had to rethink what our sales KPIs are. Like for me, my background, I originally came into Vox as a programmatic seller. Maybe 2 years ago, like the objective was to set up as many PMP deals as possible because we thought that would bring in the most revenue. But I think we've had to, just from an organizational perspective, kind of just be consultants to buyers about, what the best way to access our inventory is, whether that's open or PMP or through curated marketplace. And that's kind of like the value of my team as well. So we're kind of trying to reframe that, like what we should task our sales teams with in terms of just making the deal IDs that we do have just work harder for us.
I agree. I think at Forbes we were doing the same thing, and I think that's part of a growing pain of, the first tactic is get as many PMP deals as you can as possible, but then you grow and then you learn like, okay, well, having this many is not really beneficial to us. Let's try and garnish those relationships that for the people that are actually scaling in the inventory.
I mean, for us too, it's not just, it's about scale and it's about CPMs. So we're going to prefer the highest CPM no matter what vehicle comes into Zynga.
And because we've already touched a little bit on deals, I think it's appropriate to shift the conversation a little bit to thinking about programmatic reservations and how they're growing. Direct deals still and probably will remain a sizable chunk of a publisher's revenue. Typically, we're seeing that publishers like yourselves still carve out your premium inventory and audiences for these types of deals. But the means of transacting and executing these types of deals has definitely evolved from what was probably a handshake at lunch before to now automated reservations. At Google, we're seeing definitely an increase on direct deal growth. And in 2018 in particular, when it came to programmatic guaranteed, we saw it double. So 2x the amount of programmatic guaranteed being transacted. So Rebecca, when you're thinking about your business, how are you thinking about direct deals today? And are you using automated reservations to execute one-to-one deals? Can you speak through some of the advantages of using programmatic pipes?
So one thing that we did differently that I've heard other publishers carve out specific inventory for programmatic. I didn't see a value for that at Forbes, so everything that was available from a direct standpoint, execution-wise, if it can get done on a programmatic guaranteed basis, then we want to sell it on a programmatic guaranteed basis. One thing that I want us to focus on more for the buyers is understanding the quality of the product that we're sending out. Think about execution later. If you want to run through a direct IO, you can, but if you want to run this via programmatic guaranteed, we can, which is the reason why we're building certain packages in certain ways, and it's up to my team to make sure, is the technology there? Can we still offer this as a programmatic? You see a lot of shift for agencies where the dollars, they want to spend programmatic. And education-wise, they don't always fully understand what programmatic is. They just know that they get a note from high up saying, we need to move this money to programmatic. So educating them and letting them know what can be offered, and it's the same exact execution, is something that I think goes well with them. Forbes tried to be on the forefront of programmatic guaranteed. We've backed it ever since it came out, and our goal, like I said, was just trying to make sure that we keep up with our direct packages and making sure, can we offer this? Can we make sure that this execution is the same, at least optically, and in the back end, because of the different way that it's executed, you will have to do some things slightly different, but as long as they still get the package that's the same as what they wanted in the beginning, that's what makes the most sense.
And Gabrielle, I believe you guys are newer to looking at programmatic guaranteed and deals. What are you excited about in this space?
So for us, we're a game company and we make games for brands as well, so we gamify brands, and we can run that programmatically. And previous, we didn't have the pipes available to do PG, now we do. So before we were doing it on a handshake and a prayer, like, here's the minimum spend for us to build this for you, hopefully you will honor it. Luckily, almost everyone did honor it. There was one client that did not honor it that will remain nameless. So we're excited about that for PG, definitely. I think that, we're also looking into, could we do even more custom things through PG? So I actually have an email out to our legal and finance team to see how could we reconcile some in-game sponsorships. For example, you can do a takeover of Words with Friends, a one-day takeover, and do the word of the day. How could I transact with that on PG? So we're definitely looking to ramp. We want to make it as easy to buy us any way possible for everyone via every channel, whether it's custom or video at scale.
And Katie, I know Vox has been, I feel like a leader when it comes to programmatic guaranteed, and it's definitely been, you guys have been leaning heavily into it. So what do you think is driving that? Is that coming more from the media buyers? Is it coming from the publisher side?
Yeah, I think as part of our programmatic sales effort, I think we were really pushing it in tandem with Google. We partnered together on a case study with Boston Consulting Group to kind of prove out the time savings. I think for agencies it was around a 30% time savings. For us it was upwards of 50%. And I think we've seen that definitely from an operational efficiency standpoint, we can definitely run more media at an efficient rate and just kind of lessen the back and forth in the buying and selling process. So we've seen that be really successful, and that's kind of a stat we were kind of aggressively putting out to market, in tandem with the Google team. We also partnered with Google on some beta programs where we were able to create functionality for our high-impact units that run across our owned and operated properties and our concert marketplace programmatically, which has also helped propel a lot of that growth. So we've really done everything under the sun, including our O&O YouTube inventory can be run programmatic guaranteed, takeovers, sponsorships, et cetera. So pretty much any format you can purchase, direct IO, you can run programmatic guaranteed.
Yeah, you mentioned your YouTube inventory. I'd love to hear more of how all three of you are thinking about video and PG, and if you're approaching that slightly different than the way you approach display.
Yeah, and actually just to add on to my last point, I think we were going out to market a lot with PG, but now we're kind of seeing, maybe as the market has matured, the buyers are coming to us asking for it, which is great. And then in terms of our YouTube strategy, we work really closely with the Google team just on the YouTube player program. So we have YouTube players across all of our sites. YouTube has been a big strategy for us. So we are able to sell our owned and operated inventory through DV360. As more of a premium video offering. And then through our high impact units, we offer an in-feed video as part of that. So it's similar to an outstream unit that runs across, again, the Vox O&O network as well as Concert.
So for Forbes, our pre-roll is O&O. It's on Forbes.com. We saw a huge shift last year when I think it was along with ads.txt, other regulations, where all of a sudden the demand just went through the roof, and the publishers were across the industry were having trouble trying to keep up with the scale of the demand that's coming in. So I think that helped a lot in getting people to run pre-rolls via PG, because it could be there today, it might not be there tomorrow. And closer to the end of the year, we had to stop doing our non-guaranteed deals. And because we didn't want to have a situation where a client says they want to run this much money, they only want to do non-guaranteed, and then they come back 2 weeks later saying, hey, where's all the inventory? So we also try to be as upfront with the clients as well, just to let them know it is what it is. This is the nature of the game. 2017 was a really high through a sellout for video, and 2018 was just as big. So educating them on the understanding of how video is, and I think they're getting to learn that. I think they see that across other publishers. So now that it's a few years that pass by, then it's not as big of a problem.
I think for Zynga and for games, video is a little bit more nascent. Video is probably the best kept secret about game inventory because there is so much of it, but so many clients are so used to purchasing video in video environments, whether it's people like you guys or Hulu, YouTube, et cetera. So we do have a tremendous amount of video inventory, so we're seeing increasing demand and pressure on the inventory, definitely. And discussions, like we said, we just recently launched our PG products, so discussions of doing buyouts. And then, of course, there's different types of video. We have 15-second video. We have rewarded video. We're definitely seeing a big pickup in rewarded video interest right now. So, again, we're trying to be agnostic on how people want to purchase it, whether it's PG or not. But we definitely, like in rewarded video, there's limited avails. In 15-second interstitial video, there's limited avails because we like a good user experience and we don't like to serve too much. So we're definitely cognizant of making sure that we can fulfill any PGs that we have.
And I think one of the benefits that we see of doing like PG direct deals is or programmatic deals is the ability to use data, audience guarantees. We find that it reduces just friction in terms of the amount of manpower that has to go into deals that happened in the past, and programmatic streamlines, so it creates efficiencies. Have you seen any interesting use cases or things that you've learned with how people are using PG?
Yeah, I meant to bring that up earlier about the audience guarantee product. We love that because it provides complete privacy, rather, not transparency, of the buyer's data when it pushes to us. And we can forecast inventory avails against that list pretty instantaneously. So I think that that's extremely valuable. We've been able to test that across like telco, tech, finance, for clients who want to either use their CRM list to suppress or to target a specific group. So I think that's a really cool innovation that I think will continue to grow as buyers become more comfortable with the product.
I love Audience Guarantee. I remember the day when they actually said that this was going to be a beta, and I said, we need to get on that ASAP, because being able to give the advertiser some sense of relaxation and relief that, okay, you're not going to get access to my data, but I'm just going to upload it. You just get a flag that says a list has been uploaded, and then we can forecast against it. They're targeting exactly or detargeting exactly who they want to. So it's again a more education process and having other people create the list, generate the list, and I think that's a more time-consuming part of it. But I'm all for it. I think it's great that advertisers are able to use this and target things specifically the way they want it.
Yeah, I think in mobile in-app, you have your device ID or your IDFA, so people are able to match their audience with you and bid or not bid based on that. So it's pretty simple.
Makes sense. And so then shifting gears, I mean, that you're just talking about mobile specifically, when we look at mobile web and apps, there was a recent Ipsos MORI research report on mobile apps that found that 91% of smartphone users spend an average of 1 hour per day in apps. And what's even more interesting is that 81% of those folks consider themselves the main shopper in the household. So it's a lot of purchasing power with these people using apps. But given mobile's extraordinary reach, what's just a bit confusing to us is the fact that advertisers still seem very averse to buying mobile web and in particular app inventory. And definitely we hear this from gaming inventory, which we see as high quality and widely available, but often passed over. So Gabrielle, being that we have you here, we'd be remiss to not start with you and really talk about what are you seeing on your end? What are you hearing from brands? How are you combating this challenge?
So I've been in games half my career. I worked for Electronic Arts for 5 years now. I've been at Zynga for 6 years, and it's always been a bit of a mystery to me why there isn't more mass adoption from brands. Every checklist you could have, there is. Like in today's day and age, is it safe? Yes. Is it viewable? Yes. Is there fraud? No. We're tag verified. We're ads.txt compliant in web, and it's in beta in mobile. I think that there's many reasons why there's this kind of confusion about the consumer and reaching them on mobile and mobile in-app. I think that there's been this revolution in how people consume entertainment, and now games is a massive way they do on their mobile device. And who is that mobile gamer? It's everybody, but one of the biggest, and one storyline that I'm really excited about is like the 50-plus female is one of the biggest audiences, and they have the most disposable income with the most purchasing power. So we're excited about that, but we also have kind of every demo. So across the board, I think what we've seen is that there's definitely an uptick. I think that the ubiquitous nature of mobile in-app now has kind of brought games to the forefront, and I think that they're slowly but surely becoming like a sexier opportunity to buy for brands, but it's still very much a, whack-a-mole kind of battle, like meeting, conference, panel, pitch, explain, educate, persuade, etc.
Do you find it's more at the clients themselves or the agencies? Do you usually have one area that you target over another in order to get that message out?
Well, of course, client direct is always the acme. I mean, I was trained as a seller at Yahoo, and we were drilled into our brains, go client direct. So definitely, but also at the agency level. And frankly, I think that one emerging trend that I'm seeing, talking about emerging trends, is the DSP as an agency. So DSPs are doing a lot of the decision-making, whether it's, AppNexus or the Trade Desk or MediaMath, and we're getting a lot of great support from DSPs. So there's still a lot of demystification that has to happen in the space.
I want to open it up to the others too, of how are you guys thinking about mobile across your properties?
So I think it's more of a, like you mentioned before, it has a lot to do with education. I think data is always key, to have that data and show that these users are engaging on mobile. The click-through is a good amount of click-through for mobile, but the problem is also optics. If an agency or if an advertiser wants to, spend a certain amount of money, would they want to spend it on a, end-to-end flush custom creative on a desktop or a 970 by 250 that takes up a good amount of your screen? It's still understanding the price that you need to pay for those smaller units, which, education is what needs to happen in order to make sure that the people that you are targeting within mobile, it is the people that you want to target. These are people that are actually engaged in the content itself, not scrolling through. So having that data, I think, is super valuable. But they haven't seen a shift in saying we want mobile specifically. There are a few people that are doing those nice custom creatives within mobile, which are great, and they're mobile only. But the overall plans within a digital plan is not specific to mobile. It's across platforms.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, the high impact units that I keep mentioning are cross-platform. We don't have any in-app inventory, so we really just look to kind of keep the formats the same no matter where the user is accessing our content. But from a data perspective, recently we kind of did an exercise to look at who our most loyal users are. And not surprisingly, on mobile, we see people spend on average less time with content. Perhaps they're not scrolling as deep as some people on desktop. But one thing we did notice is that the number of repeat visitors that we had on mobile and desktop was about the same. So I think just kind of looking at mobile as a means for analysis and in the lens of this loyalty exercise, figure out how we can build ad targeting around continuing the conversation with people who are repeat visitors, for example.
Yeah, I think that brand advertisers need a mobile strategy, and they don't all know that yet, in my opinion. And you hear a lot of noise about, you need an audio strategy now. So it's like there was radio, and then radio seemed old school and crazy, and then there was Pandora and Spotify, and now it's all cool and exciting again. And you're seeing all this press come out, and it just boggles me why there isn't this similar press just about mobile in-app in general, and mobile games specifically, because by 2020, I think there's going to be 213 million U.S. mobile gamers. So there's definitely, a lot of opportunity, and smart brands are seeing this window of space before everyone clobbers on that they can have a lot of SOV basically and presence. And then in terms of flashy, cool units, in mobile in-app, what you have is full screen video, and so that's pretty exciting. I mean, it's vertical video, which Snap kind of emerged with, and we accept is a big trend. More and more people are doing it. And also interactive units, engaging units, playables, things like that. So there's a lot of really cool, deep, engaging things you can do in an app too.
And Katie, to your point of the data you're gathering, is this impacting your content strategy and how you're approaching mobile that way and more larger business decisions beyond the ad side?
Yeah, for sure. I think I heard somebody mention earlier that it's imperative to connect the content analysis side to the ad revenue side, and how we what I'm tasked with is how do we better monetize some of that audience data that we have. So I think that's definitely a huge focus for us. Next year, outside of just ad targeting, just figuring out what other lines of business we should be exploring, things like that. So definitely the content analysis is going to become paramount in that strategy.
You mentioned audio, or is anyone else thinking about audio? I saw Spotify just bought podcasting companies. I'm wondering if anyone's dabbling in audio too.
Yeah, we have a great podcast team. I don't know if any of you have listened to our podcast, but they're pretty awesome. My personal favorite is Vox.com's Today Explained, as with the Netflix series. So if you're a fan of that, you will like this podcast. But sorry for the shameless plug there. But in terms of demand for programmatic audio, I think that's definitely a space that we see as an emerging channel and something that we want to start developing because we're seeing a lot of demand for that type of inventory.
And then Gabrielle, I think you bring up a good point, though, of everyone chases the next shiny object. And it's like there's still plenty of things that we still need to nail that already exist, and we have great scale out already. So we have about 10 minutes left. We wanted to open it up to questions from the audience. So I think there's going to be some people coming around with mics. If you want to raise your hand, we'll take your questions. We have someone up front. Anyone with the mics? Thank you, Morgan. There we go.
Hey, excuse me, sorry. You mentioned programmatic audio. I was wondering if you guys were developing anything for connected TVs or other devices outside of just mobile or that kind of thing.
You can share.
Oh, thanks. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can speak for Vox here. I think, OTT is definitely a space that we're expanding into just kind of with some of the TV programming initiatives that we've been doing recently. In terms of like an ad monetization practice around that, we're not quite there yet, but I think getting the content strategy right is definitely like one of our large focuses for this year. But hopefully by 2020, we'll have our heads wrapped around the ads part of it.
I think I tend to be a little resilient of the shiny new thing, and I hear connected TV is like the next big thing this year. So a little reserved on that right now, not something that we're going to dabble in this year, but we'll see how big of a trend it is, and then we'll think of strategy later.
Yeah, and obviously from the Google point, we are heavily leaned in on connected TV and OTT and signing on more and more partners for that, and definitely seeing them want to transact programmatically, some via open auction, many through deals. I think that that's going to be a huge space for deals in particular. Other questions? In the back.
Hi, when you're running PMP and PMPG campaigns, how do you choose the technology partner that you run those through? Is it just buyer preference, or is it based on cost, or just ease of use for your teams?
So we actually, obviously, we have an ad ops team, and they're pretty savvy with the partners they've chosen. So I think that in mobile in-app, there weren't that many players that long ago that could actually have like a full ad stack. But now there are more, definitely. But in terms of just from the sales side, because I'm not in ops, so I don't really want to fully answer it from their perspective, whatever they've built works seamlessly, so that's good. But we're pretty agnostic in terms of like DSPs, and so we have we have enough SSPs that we can be completely DSP agnostic.
So we try to be agnostic as well. The idea for us is just whichever way you want to transact on Forbes, we want to be able to help you get whatever you need out of it. So when it comes to guaranteed, though, there was a few players that were out there. AdX was definitely one that was in the forefront of that. And this year, just focusing, I think a lot more people are having programmatic guaranteed-like capabilities. So my goal is trying to see what those capabilities are. Are they up to par with how we can execute from an operations standpoint? Because to your point, as you mentioned, sometimes one might be a lot more time consuming than the other. So trying to understand, figure out what the asks are, and then seeing whether or not it'd be beneficial to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that too. I think that while we're agnostic, one thing that's definitely happening right now is like supply path optimization. So we definitely are seeing that it's a lot easier to get certain deals turned on if we push it one way or another. So we're pretty much kind of developing a playbook to be able to turn on deals as quickly as possible by using the correct SSP with the DSP agnostic approach. And that is making an impact because everyone knows like days missed launching a campaign is money down the drain. So. Exactly.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that as well, like DSP agnostic. It really depends on the format. And I think with the AdX connection, we do have more flexibility in terms of the types of offerings that we can provide, but we're hoping to become more agnostic as those other DSP technologies become more advanced.
Great, thanks.
Other questions?
Hi, Jarvis, RTBIQ DSP platform. I had an interesting conversation with one of the ad agencies that I work with. They said, can you please ban incentivized ads in mobile apps? And I was like, what? I didn't really have a good comeback for that because they're like, yeah, they're just incentivized. They're just trying to like get things and they're not paying attention to the ads. What would you kind of say to the advertising world about why we should not ban them? Because I was like, I don't want to do that, but they were like, I really want it.
Oh, gee.
I'm having the same exhale that you're having. I can
Are
only
you just,
imagine
like, your
for
blood
you.
is boiling like
Yes.
as you listen. Okay, so obviously this person maybe doesn't know a lot and needs a little education on what it is. So essentially, in terms of rewarded video, and I apologize for even using that term because the IAB just launched a new term, which is opt-in value exchange. And so for opt-in value exchange video, the truth is consumers prefer it. So any metric that you look at, like intrusive commercials or interstitials versus value exchange, they prefer value exchange, number one. Number two, any publisher loves it because it drives engagement. So typically people who are in an environment where they're consuming rewarded video, for example, tend to engage longer and play more or listen more in Pandora's case, for example. Lastly, the thing that drives me the most nuts about that comment is like when you're watching TV, and if you are watching, live TV and you see a commercial or on demand, for example, on YouTube TV, and you're having to sit through a commercial to see your next bit of the TV show, is that not incentivized? So basically, the net is that to a degree, ads suck, and they suck less when you're getting a reward for watching them, so.
Yeah, and that
Just calling it like it is.
I like the very frank, direct response there. And just to feed off of some of the things she was saying, I think it all goes back to the user experience and the value exchange. And the IAB, along with many partners, we were a part of the group looking at the Better Ad Standard and trying to decide which ads are more intrusive and which aren't. And one of the key factors is that value exchange, and users love it. So I think to that person at an advertising agency, I'd be saying, like, think about the user and the fact that if the user wants to engage in that, you're getting that much more quality of an engaged user. For me, personally, I love it. Like, if there's something that I'm going to, I'd rather watch an ad for 30 seconds to read 3 articles from a publisher that I'm probably not going to go back to at all that year. And it just offers up a different revenue stream for publishers to monetize someone like me and make more money off of me, but it also provides value to me because I'm not going to subscribe, but I'm still going to be able to have this experience. Yeah.
And I think the times are changing. And like on Netflix, you can watch an entire series in a binge watch. You don't have to wait for the next show for a week. And I think people are expecting to be able to control their ad experience and have a value exchange for it, like earn something in exchange.
That's a great point. Any other questions? We have a few more minutes. None? Okay, well, great stuff, everyone. I think we can say confidently that programmatic continues to be a dynamic and evolving part of the industry, and especially as we get better at delivering phenomenal experiences for our audiences at scale across all of their devices. So with that, we will wrap up the panel. Please join me in thanking our panelists.